All right, we are live, 7 p.m. Pacific. As promised, Rye Bread and Mustard and Mariners podcast, that 5-star dive bar podcast. You know it. It's the one on the other side of the tracks, down on the docks. That's what we are talking about. And on the other side of the docks tonight on the show, before I have to get on an airplane. See, I'm dedicated to this. I'm going to, when we wrap this show up here in 20 minutes, I'm going to be grabbing all these cords. I'm going to be grabbing my bags, headed off to Burbank, headed up to Seattle there for the big homestand, to welcome Randy Arozarena, Yimi Garcia, and today's acquisition. And we did have a little emergency reaction to that earlier today, Justin Turner. But like I said, on the hotline tonight, doing this with me is our good friend Parmesan LeBron. Parmesan is out there in the streets, parts unknown, probably a Safeway or a QFC unknown. Where are you right now?
I am at a Safeway at an undisclosed location.
I was close. Yeah, we got you here on the burner. How are you feeling? The Mariners game just wrapped up, and we'll get into that maybe on this podcast. But how are you feeling compared to like last week right now?
Things are looking pretty good. Whether we get anyone else before the deadline, I think these three moves by themselves fix a lot of problems that we had. And, mainly it's getting good hitters that are patient at the plate, getting a guy to be the setup person in the bullpen. I think these are things if you're hoping to make some waves in the playoffs and actually get there. That's what you need.
Yeah, I mean, you're adding guys that have been there. I mean, besides Yimi Garcia, who looks great, you've added two people that have lived in the playoffs. Like Justin Turner lives there. He gets his mail there. He gets taxed. These guys have to pay taxes. Well, maybe not Randy Arozarena because he's in Florida, or depending where Justin Turner gets his real mail. But what I'm saying is like they've made money on being in the playoffs. They get playoff checks. They get postseason checks. You get World Series checks. They are paying tax on being in the playoffs and in the World Series. And that's a good problem. You go back to what was successful in 2022. And you look at one of the biggest things was getting Carlos Santana, the pro in the dugout, the pro in the locker room. He's up in Minnesota this year. Unfortunately, he's on a team that's trying to get into the playoffs right now. You probably couldn't get him. I wonder if Jerry and Justin went after him. I wouldn't be crazy. I wouldn't think they were crazy if they did. You get Justin Turner. We talked about it earlier, and I could pull these things up if I need to prove the point. But this guy has hit over 500 in his last week or so of games, and going into 30 games. So let's just pull out more of a longevity stretch. He's hitting, I think, 309 or 310. Today he was in the lineup on a doubleheader in Baltimore against the Orioles. Got a single, got taken out of the game. So if you want to just track what he's up to, he had a single today. His last hit as a Toronto Blue Jay. He hits a single. And then you got to think if you're Justin Turner and you're going to have to sit in Baltimore, which I'm assuming that weather right now in the end of July isn't great. You got a double header that you got to do. And then all of a sudden you get the news like, you're not going to be out there for 8 or 9 hours today. In fact, you're headed up to Boston to join the Mariners. Got to be quite a feeling, right, Parm?
No, that's definitely one of those where, you get the news and you're like, all right, I'm grabbing a Gatorade for the road. Good luck, guys.
Yeah. And Justin Turner coming back out to the West Coast, born in Long Beach. I have a mutual good friend of with Justin Turner, Tommy Stockberger, longtime listener, longtime friend. At one point, a battery mate. Tommy, you got to go check out when you go to Anaheim. because we have another series down there. You have to go to Villains Brewery. Proprietor of that place, we were at Smoke and Fire last year with them, but for that Angel series, we will be down at Villains in Anaheim. Plug for Tommy Stockberger. He's pumped. I got the text right here. He goes, I can't believe it. My boy is a Seattle Mariner. Tommy, also a Long Beach area guy, Mariners fan. Anyways, good stuff. Hopefully we can get Justin Turner here on the pod. We're putting the pressure on you, Tommy. But you were really excited about this pickup today, Arm.
I think, for the money that we're going to have to pay him this year compared to what we're paying a couple other guys on the roster that are not performing, I think this is a steal. I think last year, all of his stats in Boston show that he still has it. He can still be in a productive lineup and score a lot of runs. He almost had 100 RBIs last year, 23 home runs. I think that's been, steady for him throughout his career. He's a plus 20 home run guy. Put him in a productive lineup. He's going to drive in plenty of runs for you. He's patient at the plate. I think this is a quick fix. I think it didn't cost us much, and it's not going to cost us much on the salary side either.
Yeah, and we'll get into that in a second, but as the title of this episode, are the Mariners going all in here? You bring it up right now. Didn't cost much. None of this has cost much. All of this has not cost literally anything that we were like, we don't want to give that up. Everything that a Mariners fan's been like, we can't give that up, or ooh, that would be tough to give up, hasn't happened. I mean, Aiden Smith is right now the top dog that you gave up. Not to say he's not going to go on to have a great career. Hopefully he does. But going back to Justin Turner, I pulled this up on the screen here if they're watching on the YouTube. We have Justin Turner's stats right now. And again, as I mentioned, we can't look at the season as a whole, just like Randy Arozarena, who just dropped a bomb, hit a double. He's playing at the top of his game this season. And same thing with Justin Turner. Sure, 6 home runs, 31 RBIs, 257. Still can't complain about that.
Not on our team. That's literally sitting at the top on our team.
Yeah, 724 OPS, on base percentage. This guy gets the walks, 351. You were telling me you really enjoyed the earlier show where we were talking about that having him, Randy Arozarena, and JP Crawford, 3 of the top 10 players in baseball that take pitches in plate appearances. They go deep.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking, that if you just say that those guys, on average, whatever it comes out to be, if those guys can squeeze out 10 pitches or more per plate appearance through the first 2 times around, right? You're getting 60 pitches off the starting pitcher just off those 2 guys or those 3 guys.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about getting to a bullpen early on a team that doesn't have a really successful one, like that's the key to success, especially if, we're playing the numbers game and we're trying to make substitutions, and that's what you're going to have to do in the playoffs.
Yeah. And again, his pedigree of playoffs is second to none. This guy has just lived in the playoffs. He's played an entire career in the playoffs, just about.
I think to your bigger point too, that we didn't have to give up anything that we thought we're going to have to give up if we want to get a really big bat, like Vlad or anyone else, or Diaz, anyone that we think we're going to have to give away, the farm system for. We haven't had to do that yet, so they're still there, and those options are still for the taking.
Absolutely. You have all the chips going into deadline day, maybe Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever the atheists go after on that day. It could be a big one tomorrow. You were talking about, just right there, I pulled it up, you were talking about the plate appearances. We talked about this earlier on the on the emergency one. Justin Turner 4.4, Randy Arozarena 4.26, JP Crawford 4.38. So we also had this one that we got some comments here. This is also too coming from the Lookout Landing article. Justin Turner's power is pretty much cooked. Agreed. He's literally the oldest active baseball player. Let's not be too shocked. God, that makes me feel fucking old. But he still makes a ton of contact and absolutely raises the floor of the lineup in a meaningful way. Good ad. So I agree. We're just bringing that back from earlier today, and I think right now, as you were saying, Parm, we got already better. You've addressed every problem. If the Mariners had not done anything until today, and then all of a sudden all this came in, everybody'd be ready to go. We know people are being greedy right now as fans. I agree. Now that we have all these players and haven't given up much, nothing that we were scared of. Again, I think that's the mission statement here. Now you could go after somebody tomorrow or today. If you're getting this on the podcast this morning, you go after somebody today and give up a couple of prospects. And I know I'm shrugging my shoulders, like a couple of prospects. I know that's a big thing and a big risk, but you have a lot of good prospects. You could give up a couple of them. You're in the position to give up like you were in 2022 when you got Luis Castillo. I think Luis Castillo and Randy Arozarena probably on that same level of like what kind of pickup you got as far as blockbuster marquee value. The control with the Randy Arozarena is obviously a good thing. It matches up with the control you have with Cal, with Logan, with Kirby, the young core of the team. And Julio's not going anywhere. So you can really align that way. So that's great. Justin Turner is your veteran guy. He's a rental,
Yep.
maybe a culture setter here. Same thing with Victor Robles. I know he's young, but he's been in the league. He's been to the World Series. He's a champion. You have that. You have Turner. You have Randy, who's been there. And I don't know. Again, if one of the players like a Mitch Garver, a Mitch Haniger, Polanco seems like we're taking him out of that blame circle right now. He seems to be getting to the ball. If one of those guys can kind of turn it up, we're in a good spot. I think Julio's was showing us lots of good stuff. I haven't given up on JP Crawford yet. I think maybe this time off, I know he's recovering from an injury, which sucks, but maybe comes back with a whole nother view of like what he's got to do on this team as well. Cause a lot has changed in that dugout since JP Crawford was there.
Yeah. I think the immediate fix of, parting ways with Ty France, getting Turner in here is just kind of like, okay, rip that Band-Aid off. The other thing, I think getting, your setup guy to pitch the eighth inning solidifies the questioning of like, should we put Stanek out there? Should we put Santos out there? Right. And we solved that with trading Stanek away. And like Santos is like, he's getting there. We know what he's capable of, but we now can give him a little bit more time and flexibility to get right and be who we need him to be.
Yeah, that's a great point. But going into today, tomorrow, do you expect the Mariners to make a big move? And if so, who is the person? Who's?
I think the writing on the wall for me is, we talked about this before Turner got traded, that it was like, I don't think we're done with Toronto. I think that was just, we were buying him a drink. We were seeing him, how much interested they were. Turner, it's like we're asking him to dance. And we're getting them out on that dance floor, and now it's time to see if they mean business towards the end of the night.
You're saying you want to see if they want a dirty dance?
I want to see them say like, "Let's go all the way." Like, shoot me shoot me your Instagram. This might not just be a one and done. But I think this is, if we go after Tampa Bay, go get Diaz. If we go get Vlad, whatever the situation is, I think like that one more bat solidifies us where if these guys don't turn it around that have been, letdowns for us this year, like we're okay. It's wash our hands of it, move forward. But I think, like you said, team control with a lot of these players, even if it's just for this year and next year, is a great thing. So that we're not leveraging everything into a 1 year window. We can add to that next year.
You're right. And listen, what you're saying is you're looking for that Jerry to give you that Hawk 2 right here. You're looking for that Hawk 2 trade. You got all the chips, Jerry. You got all the chips. You got stuff still sitting in the pocket. I feel like you're playing with house money right now, right? You just walked into the casino. You put a couple dollar bills in the slot machine. Things happen. You've been there. You're feeling good. You can pay some of these bills, right? Like there's offensive bills that we're not being paid. We're paying some of them. We're catching up. But guess what, Jerry? We're still looking for that jackpot score. I think it's going to happen. But also, if you grabbed another person again, another like even Yandy Diaz, you're not giving a ton up for that. If you're just grabbing another serviceable player that has a track record, and especially with somebody with playoff pedigree, I'll be happy. If nothing happens because the market is that terrible, I'm happy with what we've done. I think Jerry Dipoto, Justin Hollander, the Shadow, as Hanno calls him, I think they've done a good job here. You've seen Jazz, you've seen Randy, and I think the other big trade, Isaac Paredes, that was another guy that was out there. He goes to the Cubs. I know the hated Houston Astros, they just got Yusei Kikuchi, Hanno, who's on the mend, hopefully back tomorrow off the IL to talk the blowover of the deadline. We'll be back tomorrow night. I'm sorry, I have to wrap this up. I'm getting on an airplane, like I said at the top of the episode here, very shortly. I'm already in the area of am I going to miss it? But I just wanted to talk a little bit of Mariners talk with Parmesan. But overall, if you're a Mariners fan, how we felt last week to right now is a totally different world, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're looking good. I think one thing I'd love to see you guys talk about, depending on what happens in the next day, is Jerry feeling like his job is in jeopardy, and is he going to empty out the farm system at the trade deadline to make big enough moves to possibly save his job, or just to basically empty it out, be like, this is what I built, so it's mine to play with.
That is interesting to me. Like, why am I going to be like this? Why am I going to be so conservative when if we don't get the good results, I might be out of here and Scott might be out of here. We're like, fuck it. We've done all these draft moves. We've built this. I get that. If I'm Jerry, I'm making my move right now. Also, if you make the big move right now and you've unplenished you deplete your farm system and you had nothing else going on, I get the anger from fans. But if you're like, we're going to empty out a portion of this for a big star with the additions that you've already made, you have to be all in and for it. And that's why we called this episode that way.
And our team's young enough and good enough with what we've got on both sides that we would have time to rebuild the farm system right now. I think I'm confident in moving as many players as needed to make an impact.
We'll see. Are the Mariners all in or what tomorrow? Either way, I feel like the team's better. I gotta get out of here, guys, but I will be back when things change. I'm having fun here. With that being said, thank you for liking, subscribing, and all that shit. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube page, smash that. If you're listening to this on the podcast side and you're being like, man, I'm missing out. I know we have comments and questions right here, but this is a quick one. We'll be back with a deadline, blowout, water cooler episode tomorrow. Again, if you want to be down with that street cred, hit up at simply.cora. That's at simply.cora. With that being said, hey, Parm, you know what time it is. You know what? You might have the best backup cavalry car. Charge that card. Charge it. Spend those assets. All right, we're out. And